Welcome. I am attorney Michelle Castillo. The reason for this video is to explain how you can protect your estate against the courts and against Medi-Cal. We will talk about how important it is to have a living trust if you own a home in California, and the difference between a living trust and a will. Let's begin with the why a living trust is necessary. Here in California, if you pass away and you have assets with a value greater than $160,000, you're subject to probate. In other words, if you own a home in California, then you most likely have an estate that has a value more than $160,000. Because let's face it, properties here in California are worth more than $160,000. Now, you might think that it doesn't matter that your property is worth more than $160,000 because you still owe a lot on the property, meaning that you still have a mortgage on the property. Unfortunately, the courts don't care if you still have a debt on the property. The courts only look at the total value of the property. So in short, if we own a home, we're subject to probate if we pass away. Probate. I want you to think about this logically. If you're no longer alive to sign over a deed of your property to your loved ones, can you tell me how your loved ones will get this property? Unfortunately, they're going to have to petition the courts, asking a judge, who's the only one with legal authority, to sign that deed over to them. This process is known as probate. It's a judicial process that takes place when a person has died and has left assets, such as a house, greater than $160,000 and hasn't done any estate planning. Probate is a very lengthy and expensive process for your beneficiaries who will have to seek legal help. Medi-Cal. When someone has used Medi-Cal and dies, the state of California can request that they get repaid for certain services received by the deceased. This is known as an estate recovery claim. This is the stories that you hear that a neighbor lost their home to the government and the children didn't receive a thing. Well, it's not that the government came in the middle of the night to take the home away from the children. It's that unfortunately the deceased did not take proper precautions to avoid estate recovery claims by Medi-Cal before they died. The good news is there are precautions you can take to avoid this, and that's where a living trust comes in. Creating a living trust and transferring your house into the living trust avoids recovery claims by Medi-Cal. So what does that mean? It means that you can enjoy the benefits of Medi-Cal without any of the worries of losing your home or assets when you die. Now, if you don't have Medi-Cal and that's not a concern, I hope that saving your beneficiaries a lot of money and time by avoiding courts and all their costs and making sure that your assets, your things are distributed to the people that you want in the way that you want without any interference from anyone is of concern to you. And that's where a living trust comes in. Adding your children to your title. I often get clients who, instead of taking the time to do the right planning, they just decide that it's better to add their children to the title of their home. That way, if anything happens to them, the children automatically get the property. In theory, that sounds like a great alternative, but most often it creates more problems than it solves. There are three main reasons why I don't think it's a good idea to put your children on title. Reason number one, liability. We love our children. However, they're young and sometimes a bit careless. If they are the cause of any vehicle accident or any civil lawsuits, the first thing they will be coming for is your home, because this is not just your home anymore. This is also their home. And as such, it is an asset that a third party can come after. Reason number two, spouses. While we love our children and know our children very well, we sometimes are unaware of the future spouses that they will marry and how they can influence and often change the way our children behave with us, especially if we don't get along with them. Well, That exposes our home to a lot of uncertainty because our children can then turn around and create their own living trust where they leave their ownership rights of your home to whomever they want. Or worse, the children later get divorced. And guess what? Your property can be included in the divorce. Now you have to prove to a judge that the property is really yours and not part of that marriage. But who wants to go through all of that? Reason number 3, other children. So we put one child on title and expect this child to distribute this property to the others when we die? How are we guaranteed that this will happen? What if they don't? And then they die shortly after us without making any distributions. Now this property can be subject to their probate. And if they're married, it can go to their spouses. Imagine that. A non-blood relative ending up with your home that you've worked for your entire life to pay for. And now not even your own children get to enjoy it. Adding children to title is a messy and risky way of planning for the future. Will. Others say, well, I'll write a will, and then that will guarantee that everything I have is distributed the way that I want. And sure, it leaves instructions of your wishes behind. However, let me be clear about this. A will never avoids probate. A will does not prevent probate. A will is merely a letter that's addressed to a judge with instructions as to how you want things distributed, thereby making the judge's job a lot easier. And it doesn't mean that the cost of probate will be any less, nor does it mean that the length of probate will be shorter. And it definitely does not avoid estate recovery liens from Medi-Cal. So a will in California is not the answer. Living trust. The best alternative to all of this is a living trust. A living trust is a legal document used to allow you to transfer your estate to your beneficiaries without the intervention of a judge or the costs associated with probate. This is a private way of doing things. And how does it work? Well, I like to use my little jewelry box to explain how a trust works. You see, a trust, much like a jewelry box, is where we hold all our valuables with instructions on how we want these valuables distributed when we die. To accomplish this, we leave someone in charge of the jewelry box, of the trust, when we pass away and make sure that the distribution takes place exactly how we instruct. This person is known as a successor trustee, and it can be our own children. There are many types of living trusts, but 2 in particular are the most common: a revocable living trust and an irrevocable living trust. An irrevocable trust can be seen as a box, but without the key. Whatever we put in the box, in the trust, like our homes, we will not have the easy ability to change or remove, meaning to sell it or refinance. This is a special trust for special situations, and it's not for everyone, which is why it's not the most popular. The second and most popular trust is called a revocable trust. And like my jewelry box, it has a key. The key belongs to us, to you, because while we're alive, we control what goes in the box and what comes out. In other words, we do not lose control of our things as long as we're mentally capable. For example, if we put our home in the trust, we can always sell it, refinance, or buy more homes and keep opening our box and adding them to the box, to the trust. And how do we add things to the trust, to the box? Well, the first thing we have to do is name that box. Usually, it's your family's name. For example, if your family's name is Lopez, we can use the Lopez Family Trust as the title of the trust. So now that we have a name for the trust, we can then prepare deeds that grant our property over to the Lopez Family Trust, which is created by you and controlled by you. The only thing that really changes is the legal name that appears on the title. When we die, the key now goes to that person that we left in charge of distributing our things, the successor trustee. Think of this person in charge as an administrator or a manager of your trust, because they're not the owners of anything. They can only help carry out your instructions and distribute your estate to the beneficiaries you have already named and chosen. Remember that the great thing is that that person can be one of your own children. What's included? In our trust packages, we include a revocable trust, a will for backup purposes, and 3 power of attorneys. The first one's for financial matters, and the last 2 are for medical purposes. We then record the deed that transfers your property into your living trust. I hope this video helped you understand in very simple terms what a living trust is. That's what I like to do. Just simplify everything. My office is casual, easygoing, yet professional, knowledgeable, and my fees are competitive and reasonable. Now that you know how important it is to have a trust, don't hesitate to call me and let's get the process started. I'm at your service.